looking at fresh crisis within the party. But let's look beyond that. What do you think about the political state of Nigeria as we speak? Because it is not just the PDP, as we seem to see that there are no clarifications in terms of the crisis, but also APC. Are you surprised?
No. Everything relates to Buhari. Everything in both the PDP and the APC. What you're seeing, Buhari's weaponization of nepotism and his intent to appropriate Nigeria for his ethnicity, it's what's making the entire ethnicities of Nigeria aggregate. First in Asaba, second in Lagos, and then as you can see, we're all playing. The APC tells you they have an option. If they cannot, as they intend, hold power and put it in the northerners' hand, they may want to bring a southerner who they say will do only 4 years. And then the PDP now thinks, because they cannot, under the current circumstances, allow anyone who is not strong to checkmate the Fulani insurgency, they need to recalculate what they're doing. And that's why you heard the ethnicities joined in Lagos to say the southern part should have the presidency. Why? As I speak to you today, apart from those who put Buhari in power in the APC, they have come back to the PDP and currently are the frontline agonists for presidency in the PDP. And of course, if you look at it, none of those frontline agonists can face up to the Fulani insurgency. None can face up and stop the Fulani redentist movement. That's why the Southern governors believe you need a Southerner who can actually, honestly, for the sake of country, stop this. And if you ask me, I think it's good for the country, because if the governors don't wake up to try to do this, and then the youth fill in the void as nature abhors vacuum. You've seen what the youths are doing. All of them have embraced separatism. If we allow that to go on, we could lose the country. So I think in principle, the politicians in the north should show gratitude to the southern governors for trying to arrest this.
But isn't it worrying that in a time like this, you know, a lot of people, Nigerians, are expecting that opposition will give a guiding light in terms of the policy and implementation of the policy, that in a country where you have, you know, the incumbent party, the opposition is meant to drive, you know, the conversations of the citizenry to the fore. However, what we see are party, you know, mandates being discussed at a time where the egos are also quibbling.
For one reason, in both the APC alliance and the PDP political party, you have members of the Fulani redentist movement. So since all of them, they exist in both parties, they will undermine it. It is an ethnic agenda. You on this place and on other channels you hear Bala Mohammed, Ejarawa, speak to advantage of the Fulani insurgents, though he's in the PDP. In the APC, of course, the APC doesn't have its own position. What Buhari has been implementing is the agenda of the Miyet Allah, because the APC was actually supposed to be a national political party. That's what it should have been, progressing from being a coalition. But once they won power, Buhari trashed the APC and started implementing the politics of the Miyet Allah. So since it is that Fulani agenda that seems to drive crisis in both the PDP and APC, that's why you now saw the ethnicities gather in Lagos to pronounce that. Because if they don't, the youth will now take it into their hands. And the path the youths are taking in all parts of the country is separatism.
Dr. Ononuju, I'm still struggling to make a correlation between Buhari and the crisis in the PDP, between the Fulani redentism, which you talk about, and the fact that the PDP governors, led by some notable governors in the South, are dissatisfied with what they call incompetence of the Uche Secondus-led national, Uche Secondus-led NWC of the party. What's the correlation with that? Uche Secondus has...
Take a correlation from this, from what you're saying.
Yes.
Uche Secondus is of the PDP. The ethnicities of Nigeria gave the PDP their votes for 16 years. What has the PDP done since the Fulani-driven killings in Plateau, in Benue, in Taraba, in Kaduna State, in Katsina, in Zamfara, in Sokoto, are those not Nigerians that are being killed? If the PDP couldn't do a thing, couldn't speak to defend those that voted them in for 16 years, what would you think? What really do you think is responsible for the PDP's inability to speak up? How come I'm the only member of the party that talks about this issue?
No, I don't think you're the only member of the party that talks about it. I think that which was the reason why the
How come the party doesn't address the insurgency?
Which was the reason the Southern governors, made up of PDP members, also reached a resolution and saying ban to open grazing in our state and gave deadlines of September to pass anti-grazing laws within their state. Whether it was done across party lines, there was still a semblance of the fact that a decision was taken by the party. And Governor Tom in Benue State has been speaking up about the killings in Benue State by, bandits and what we call bandits, whether terrorists or bandits. In Taraba as well, they have been speaking as well. So it's not as if the PDP has not been speaking. But
no, Governor Tom has been speaking because the thieves are being slaughtered. Idomas, Gedes, Agatus have been killed. Governor Ishaku has been speaking because the Kakas, the Pansas have been killed in Gembu. The Kutep, the Wurkum, the Chamba, the Jukuns have been attacked by the Fulani. So those governors come from states where ethnicities have been wiped up. What about in Plateau where Lalong has kept quiet? As I speak to you today, Fulanis have killed in Barkin Ladi, Rayom, Jos South, and Bassa. Right now, 77 villages are sacked. And foreign Fulanis from Mali and Central African Republic occupy their villages, and these indigenous people are in displaced IDP camps. What has the PDP done? So that's why it's good that the PDP governors have now joined with the other governors in the south. Then you have the voices of Governor Tom and the governor of Taraba supporting it, because they know no politician in the north can stop the
let's talk about the crisis in the PDP now, because sometimes, some persons perceive that this Fulani redentism which you talk about sometimes is over-exaggerated. Yeah, the issues are real, which you talk about. But as it affects the PDP and the struggles it is facing at the moment, which a lot of people saw it coming, that at some point there was a falling out between Uche Secondus and the governor of Rivers State, who was quite instrumental in him coming into office as the national chairman of the party. 2019 came, and the politics of the presidential candidate of the PDP in 2019 was like a breaking point. A lot of people felt Uche Secondus' leadership has been quite awful. I mean, so many governors have left, and there's been crisis within the ranks of the party. They're planning for a 2023 election. Two sides seem to be emerging. The sides that feel that with Uche Secondus in power, they are guaranteed a presidential ticket. And the side that feels with Uche Secondus out of position, then they are also guaranteed to have their way as far as 2023, whether the federal, presidential, and governorship level. That is what I want to get your perspective as an insider in the party. Let's leave the Fulani issue aside. When we're talking insecurity, we'll face that squarely. So talk to us about that.
Well, you jump from one, but then they're all interrelated. And as I'm saying, I say they're interrelated. Why? You're not honestly saying that with Secondus there, there's a perception that some people will get the ticket. So maybe that is the reason why some people think events leading up to the PDP convention should not be allowed to be instrumented with Secondus there. So that might be why they think he should go, so that some other people could then calibrate events leading up to because in politics, if you want to win tomorrow, you start now. So if they start now to try to fix the NWC that will now instrument outcomes at the convention, what NWC do you think will instrument outcomes? Will the current NWC led by Secondus instrument outcomes that will be favorable to the Southern governors? Or do the Southern governors and those who fight Secondus think that they need a new bunch of people? Of course, Secondus has given them enough reasons to go after him, as Will correctly says, ineffectual, ineffective. They don't do nothing. As far as I'm concerned, my party has failed as an opposition party.
Okay, sister.
Okay, so if the calculation is whoever stays there to organize events leading up to the convention will have a very strong effect on outcomes. So maybe then political calculations should be, I should not trust them to be there, since they will calibrate intentions that will give advantage for, as you said, a certain camp of the party that seeks the ticket. That's one. Two, which camps are there now? All the inferences we've seen from the north, they are the same people who abandoned PDP, ran to APC, brought in Buhari, and after Buhari had done for 8 years, they now run to the PDP and want us. Let me tell you the truth.
But you
what have they said in the killings?
Dr. Cash, but the PDP would need those alliances if
The
they are to
PDP
win
needs
a
alliances.
national election such as the
Nigeria
presidency.
needs alliances. Today, Nigerian alliances are being built along the platform of ethnicities. Why do I say so? You saw what happened in the National Assembly. You saw how Buhari can bend anybody's hand, simply open you a file, and you will cross carpet. All they do is just open files for you. Because why? There is no anus you dip in your finger that you will not see shit. So, but don't pray that they put the anus in your finger. That's the trick. So there is no anus. Buhari dips in his finger, he won't see shit. So that's where the problem is. Since he has the capacity.
Maybe we could soften the analogy a bit.
Well, the analogy is an African adage. That's why I'm saying that. There is no stone you start throwing around that you won't see sand on it.
All right,
That's better.
Still staying there with that frame of thought. I mean, Dr. Cash,
Yes.
when you look at the history of PDP as a political party, I mean, from 1998 down the line, chairman after chairman. I mean, Secondus was, a chairman in Rivers State from 2002 to 2008, state chairman. And before he actually even came in 2015 to 2017 in acting capacity, and now as a chairman. Now, we see that the hands that, detected the tune, which of course is Governor Nyesom Wike and Secondus, have been at this warring conversation. Some people might call it, in your own terms, a concentric circle of conspiracy, but others might say that really, under Secondus, that the South will not have a chance at the presidency, and you have declared that. But within the political party rankings and the political party engagement, do you not think that the PDP ought to tell itself the truth that it is time to look at not just Secondus as the head, but the whole structuring, from the Board of Trustees to the PDP as itself, to begin to realign its intention for the country?
I'm happy you say this. Because of what we suffered when we lost election, our leader, President Goodluck, refused to lead. If he had agreed to still maintain his position as leader, we wouldn't have all sorts of people scrambling to lead. And then in that game, governors came forward. Governor Wike brought his resources, campaigned, brought Secondus and put Secondus, and started funding the party, started helping the party. And at the end of the day, I think it's just an investment. An investor believing he's not getting his returns. And then, most importantly, let me tell you, it's good that we have this crisis now so that we can heal.
Is it possible that that will happen? That
Of course.
The party can heal?
Of course, the party will heal.
Can you peacefully
Before
exit Secondus NWC
We
before his
can
tenure
peacefully
expires?
Don't forget, historically,
Without fracturing the party?
This is the PDP. What's happening today is nothing new. No party chairman has ever had peace like this. Going towards the 4th year, they always have problem. They resign, and we bring another group. So nobody has ever had 2 terms. Don't forget that. So if you're asking me PDP's nature repeating itself, I will tell you, well, if that's PDP, that's who we are. So we can't start reinventing ourselves. If, and I say this again, Secondus accepted to be brought by a godfather. I think once that godfather is fed up with you, social calculation will say, okay, I think I ain't get them. I'm going to make him say no do again. You don't go force them.
Well, isn't it really time for us to look at ending garrison politics, which was introduced by the PDP, as said during the Obasanjo's time? Now that we're looking, because you're talking about the muscle of one man's financial power in dictating and also managing the affairs of the party because he's an investor. What about the general overview of what really is good for the party beyond, political intrigues and personal interest?
I think our democracy is young. We will grow into that. It took only 16 years of democracy for the ethnicities in the north to wake up since from Fulani subjugation. Though the Hausas have not yet woken up. So it takes time. Okay, after 20 years of democracy, you're now seeing Hausas wake up to speak up about subjugation. These things take time. Imagine how long I've been on television doing the monologue. See how long it took for everybody now to catch up. Nothing comes easily and quickly. So it is taking us this time, this long. Most of us in the South see everybody from Kogi to Sokoto as Ndausa. Today, we have a different perspective. Time is the best medicine. Today, we now know that the ethnicities in the North are not the problems of the South. There is no fundamental problem between the North and the South, not between Muslims and Christians. It is just that the Fulani refuse to share Nigeria with the rest of us. It's only now dawning on the rest of us. And that's why you're seeing these recalibrations. When the Yorubas joined the Fulani to form the APC coalition in 2015, they didn't know that if they had listened, the best way to be able to predict the future is always to study the past. And that's what I have always seen. And I said, look, if at the end of the colonizing period by the British, the Portuguese left, the British left, and yet the North is not free. Now we're seeing the real reasons of that not being free, the stunting of the North, and using that stunting to undermine Nigeria's progress. Nigerians are finally awake to the truth of who they are.
All right.
But the narrative is that both political parties have failed Nigerians, and it's up to Nigerians.
No.
How do you refer to that?
We have come to the end of the first process. What you are saying is all the fraudulent calibrations intended by the soldiers and built into Decree 4, which we now use as Democracy Manual, also known as the Constitution. People have now seen how impracticable those things that were inserted into it are. That's why they are now asking for restructuring. When the Fulani refuse to listen to restructuring, what happens? The youth embrace separatism. Because if you're looking for a way to go to the sky, you must be willing to aim towards the heavens.
Thanks for checking out SYMFONI on YouTube. Please be sure to subscribe and like our videos for updates.